Welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to take a look at the Gamesir Tegenaria Lite, I believe that's how it's pronounced, controller. And what we're going to try to find out is this controller retails for about 20 bucks. So, is a $20 controller going to be worth having around? So, we're going to, of course, unbox it, take a look at it, and run some tests on it, play some games, and we will see if it might be worth spending the 20 bucks to pick you up one of these controllers. So let's get this box open. So I think all I got to do is tear this. We'll see if I need to actually get out the knife, but looks like I might just be able to pull that off and then just get the box open. Let's see, a little bit of trash here to get rid of. Yep, so like all we're going to have to do. So what's in the box? In the box is probably the controller. Nothing in here, so we will set this aside. Foam pouch with our controller. So here it is. Inside the foam pouch, is there anything? Not really. Just a little contact brochure and I guess a QR code for the user manual. They can't be bothered to pack it in there, then we are not going to look at it. Controller should be simple enough to use without a manual anyway. So we have controller unboxed. And one thing we might notice immediately, okay, we've got a USB-A connection here. Decent length cord. I don't know if they say on the box how long the cord is. I don't think they say. But it looks long enough for hooking up to your PC. Or maybe another device, maybe plug this into a tablet. As long as you can plug it in, it'll probably work with iOS and Android. At least it says it does. So, got our cord. Now, one thing, of course, that's pretty obvious is the design inspiration here was obviously the Sony DualShocks. This is the Sony I have here is a DualShock 3, but the other ones are somewhat similar. So you can see the kind of stick center design that Sony usually uses, as opposed to the Xbox offset design. And we don't have PlayStation, X, circle, square, and triangle, but we do actually have the colors here. You'll notice the colors here are the same as the colors on the PlayStation controller. And in addition, of course, my DualShock 3 is the blue one, but this is obviously meant to make us remember the old traditional PlayStation 1 colors. Taking a look at what this controller brings to the table, we have traditional PC, Xbox arrangement, A, B, X, Y buttons, and we have our tall sticks, so we shouldn't have any problems with stick drift over time with this device. We've got what appear to be analog triggers on the back. We'll find out when we do the gameplay test or the hardware testing here. And the usual assortment of your buttons. There's a macro button here, I believe. This one with the rainbow. And your typical arrangement of buttons. On the back, there are some additional buttons back here. Doesn't look like there's any way to disable these with hardware. So, I have another Gamesir G7 controller where you can actually lock these buttons so you don't accidentally press them. But that may or may not be a problem, depending on whether the buttons are bound to anything. But what I believe we will do next is we will hook this up to my Lenovo Legion Go, which is sitting just off camera here. And we will test this controller out and see what we've got. So we've got our controller hooked up to the Legion Go here, which is why you can see all these Legion controllers sitting there in the gamepad tester. So we're going to check this thing out. So let's see. We have analog triggers. Seem to work fine. They don't have a whole lot of travel here, so if you're bothered by that, well, that's part of this being a $20 controller. So we've got analog sticks working here. We'll look at the circularity in a minute, but these feel pretty smooth. I guess, you know, they're your basic Hall sticks here. Got all of our buttons up and running, no problem. The macro buttons here, I looked at the documentation for this controller. I believe the only thing you can really do with the buttons on the back is just assign them to a button on the front. So I could make R4 and L4 equivalent to one of the other buttons here, but I'm not sure you can do a whole lot more with that. So let's take a look and see if these sticks are relatively smooth here in the tester. Of course, I think Gamesir has been doing this a little while, so nothing funky going on here. They do feel pretty smooth. We'll see how this works in actual gameplay, but at least with the tester here, so far so good. Not really any problems evident here. And you know, I'm just testing this on a PC, but of course this controller has modes. You can hold down the home key and hit these buttons. You can change the controller to switch mode, Android mode, and you can also have it emulate a DualShock, so kind of Sony mode, you might say. Now, again, I think the buttons on the back don't really do a whole lot, except for just they can be mapped to one of the buttons on the front. Nothing fancy here, but then again, this is a $20 controller, so we're not expecting a whole lot of super fancy features here. But we do want to get this thing tested out in some gameplay. Oh, before we do, this controller supposedly has vibration. Let's see if we can get a little vibration out of it. So let's watch and see if the controller does anything. Oh, I guess it vibrates. So I believe you can adjust the vibration here. Right now, it's not fancy haptics or anything. It's just a vibration motor. So kind of old school here. But again, $20 controller. So we're not expecting the haptics like you'd find in a PS5 controller. But, you know, for shaking the controller at the appropriate time during a game, this will do fine. But speaking of games, let's actually see how well this does in something like Borderlands 2. Got Borderlands 2 up and running, so let's put the Tegenaria Lite, assuming that's how it's pronounced, through its paces with a little bit of gameplay. So far, seems responsive enough.
Take the shot, babe. Oh, no happy ending for them.
Yeah, that was my fault.
You know just how to handle me.
The meat puppy! They come to the slaughter! Like children who like to trap! Yeah! Up the end! Critical!
Shot, babe.
So maybe not quite as precise as
Take a long, hard
some of my more expensive controllers, but
take the shot, babe.
That happened. You
for a $20 controller, you can probably just toss in a bag to take with you on a trip.
right?
It'll probably work fine.
I love the way you kill. You ready to pull the trigger? Go on.
Who else is left?
Hard look. You really blew them away.
I think that was it.
Ooh, look at you go. Take the shot, babe. Like what you see. No happy ending for them. You ready to pull the trigger? Where do you want me?
Oh, got stuck on the landscape there for a second.
It's a fine day, full of opportunity. I'm sure we'll be doing this again soon enough.
Oh, that's probably good enough for you to have an idea of how this controller performs with a first-person game like Borderlands 2. Now, I would say it's probably not quite as precise as... Oh, didn't mean to do that. As some of my fancier controllers here that cost way more than $20. But again, for a cheap travel controller, I think this is perfectly fine. So let's actually look at another game. We're going to look at Colony Wars, and we're going to see how well we can fly the ship around in Colony Wars. We've got Colony Wars up and running here. This is a PlayStation 1 game emulated via DuckStation, and we're going to see how well the analog controls and other controls do for playing an emulated PlayStation 1 game. So this is basically a space flight simulator, and we're going to see if we can fly the craft decently well and shoot fairly accurately.
Enemy craft. Civilian vessels must be protected. Immediate response required.
We'll have a little bit of loading here.
This is Midas Starport. We are under attack. Please assist. Midas Starport. Surrounding area clear. Well done. You are clear to dock.
Docking sequence initiated.
So, flying around for a little bit there. One thing I would say is, again, I think I said this with the Borderlands 2 as well, these are not as precise as some of the better sticks that I've used on some substantially more expensive controllers. But, again, for a $20 controller, they work pretty well. In terms of comparing to other devices, I would say that these are, you know, on par with what you would get on the better retro handhelds, you know, stuff like the Odin 2 and the Retroid Pocket devices. You know, these sticks are kind of on par with those. They're not quite as good as something like a Kishi V3 controller that has those new TMR sticks, and they're not as good as what you would find on some of the PC handhelds, like, you know, the MSI Claw, the Ally, Steam Deck, and those. So it's not quite as good as those, but more on par with, I'd say, the retro handhelds. And again, for a $20 controller, this is perfectly fine. But it doesn't seem to be performing quite at the level of a $50 or $60 controller. One more thing to check. Let's actually look at another PlayStation game. See how this D-pad does. So let's take a look at Silhouette Mirage. So we've got Silhouette Mirage loaded, which is a game you can play by the D-pad here. Not so sure I like the feel of the D-pad, the way it's sunken in. You might can kind of see it on here. Probably see it better on the normal background. But we're going to try this out, and I'm going to have the sound on during the actual game, but if you happen to be watching this video later on and the sound goes out while this game is on, well, we'll see if the background music hopefully doesn't trigger any YouTube strikes or warnings or anything like that. Well, only one way to find out. Let's go ahead and turn the sound back on and start playing. Well, maybe it'll let us start playing in just a minute. Well, it looks like we can skip this opening, so I think we'll do just that.
Let's go! Hup! Reflector! Hup! Hup! Reflector! Ow! Hup! 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 Power! Reflector! Ow! Hup! Bam! 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 Power
isn't what I should be doing to maximize my coins, but
Reflector!
just want to move on from a bit after this beginning area. Come on, let's go.
Reflector! Power! Reflector! Hop, bam! Power! Reflector! Hop, power! Reflector! Reflector! Hop, power! Punch! Hop! Hop! Reflector!
Scanning targets in range.
I think the D-pad performs perfectly fine, at least for this game. I'm not necessarily sold on the shape of the D-pad as far as comfort goes, though. So we'll close the game out and come back and talk a little bit about this controller some more. So we've done some testing with this Tegenaria Lite Controller from Gamesir. And so, what are my conclusions so far? Well, things that I liked. It actually has a pretty good feel in the hand for the most part. If you're looking for that classic, PlayStation feel as opposed to playing with an Xbox controller. And in terms of responsiveness, it's pretty responsive. It plays about as well as the built-in controllers on a lot of these retro handhelds that we take a look at on this channel a lot. So pretty good little controller here. I wish the sticks were a little bit more accurate, but for a $20 controller, I'm not going to complain too much. And I'm still not necessarily sold on the feel of the D-pad. Now you can get a good look at it, see how it dips in like that. Just feels maybe a little strange putting my thumb in here. So again, it works, seemingly works pretty well. It's didn't have any real trouble using it to play a couple of games, and I didn't really feel like the controller was hampering me so much, other than my not being able to see the screen so well just because of my recording setup. But as far as the controller goes, it seemed to work pretty fine with the D-pad, and the triggers here don't have a whole lot of travel to them, but for the most part, games that I play don't really rely too much on the analog bit for the analog triggers. I don't do a lot of racing games, stuff like that. So this is not something that bothers me, but if you want longer throw triggers here, then you may want to look at a different controller. Of course, again, $20 controller. As far as what I recommend purchasing this, if you like a travel controller that you don't worry about, if it gets lost or damaged or something in travel, you just want something to throw in the bag, take with your laptop or your or your gaming handheld if you want to hook it up to a television. Cord on this is reasonably long enough so that you could comfortably use this thing. Now, being a $20 controller, it's very basic. This is not wireless in any way. This wire is not coming out, and there's no battery or anything in here. And, you know, you've got vibration here, but you don't really have fancy haptics. It just shakes the controller. So, you know, no bells, no whistles really, but, you know, for a secondary or travel controller, you know, the $20 investment is probably worth it. Next trip I go on, I'll probably just toss this thing in a bag along with my laptop or another device, and I'll be good to go. So, this has been a quick initial impressions. Well, maybe not so quick on the back end, but quick for you guys to watch. Quick impression of the Tegenaria Lite Controller. So, is a $20 controller that you can buy off of Amazon any good? I'd say, yeah, certainly worth $20. And I will be using this thing on my next trip, I believe. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember, leave me a like. If you would like to see more gaming related content, handheld, PC stuff, Android, all that good stuff, maybe even a little console now and then, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate every subscription. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Thanks for watching.